Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Dee's easy.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have announcements for all of our upcoming meetings. Regular council meetings are scheduled for Tuesday, March 3rd and March 17th at 6:30 p.m. We have a work session scheduled for Tuesday, March 10th at 6:30 p.m. And then we have a governance meeting scheduled for Tuesday, February 24th at 4:30 p.m. And the reason for the meeting at 4:30 is because we are not allowed by law to be holding a meeting between 6 and 8 due to School District 191's special election for the referendum. So our meetings at 4:30, all meetings are held here in the council chambers. The next item is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on an item that is not on the printed agenda and not an application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council? Seeing no one, we will move on. And then we have emergency items. These are additions to the final agenda and it has to do with emergency items. Ms. Johnston?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Okay, members of the council? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on the consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? Ms. Johnston.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff requests that item Q be pulled as we had inadvertently put it on there was not a unanimous vote at the Planning Commission. The vote was 4-1, and that should not have been on the consent agenda. I apologize for that oversight.
Okay. Very good. Members of the council, we will move Q to then be the first item on the regular agenda, so that would be item number 5, and then we will address that during the regular agenda. Members of the council, any items to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? May I have a motion for the balance, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keeley makes a motion, second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Item Q is an application for Lintor, LLC, for a plan unit development amendment to construct the remaining 4 townhome units that's located at the northwest corner of 125th Street West and 1st Avenue South. We're asked to adopt the findings of fact, the ordinance, and to approve the amended plan unit development. Mr. Slania.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As noted in your background, the Planning Commission saw this at their meeting last week, February 9th. There was a 4-1 recommendation in favor of the application. There were 3 neighbors that spoke to the project. Their comments were outlined in the background. They were also detailed in the Planning Commission minutes, which were included in your packet. I apologize, this exhibit did show up incorrectly in your packet. It was not Linville Properties. It was intended to be Lintor, LLC. Here's a broad overview of the sites. We're talking about the 4 pads that are left with the villas projects. As noted, they are 2 twin unit buildings, total of 4. And here's a little closer image of the pads, again right at the corner of 125th and 1st Avenue. These are the images proposed by the applicant, and I'll get into those in a minute. I wanted to show you images of the existing product. This top one on the left is the existing units on First Avenue. The remaining units would be over here, moving up the hill. And again, the bottom right, you're seeing under the snow the existing pads for the units proposed this evening. The Planning Commission did discuss this in detail, specifically the materials proposed. I do have material samples if we'd like to get into those details. At the Planning Commission meeting, they did add a condition. Staff had recommended 4 conditions. The Planning Commission added a 5th, that prior to the release of the permit, the applicant have the private utilities within the association inspected. The commissioners felt that would be prudent for the homeowners association for their knowledge and well-being moving forward. With that, council, the Planning Commission recommended approval with the 5 conditions listed on the screen and in your packet. There was 1 dissenting vote based on the use of vinyl within Heart of the City. And I will stand for any questions the council has.
Mr. Slania, can you put up the proposed units? Yeah, because it's much nicer up here than our small little
Certainly.
images. So thank you. And it's, when I looked at this, it's very compatible to the existing, unlike the one on 122nd by the fire station, where when you drive by, there is no compatibility whatsoever, and you can really see the difference in the quality of those products. This one, when I looked at it, the quality and the compatibility is there. And you have samples?
I do have samples. Madam Mayor, Council, the applicant is still working on the vinyl. They are trying to get as close as to they can as to the reveal, the lap width. So that is still to come. They are working the best they can to replicate that to the wood composite. I do have the wood composite here. So please excuse the color. These are primed. These are not the finished color palette, but they are known as LP Smart Siding. They are a wood composite. I'll pass these around. They are a wood composite versus a cement composite, which Hardy Board is.
And we've used this product around the city with other developers.
It is becoming the industry standard at this point. 10 to 15 years ago, everyone used Hardy or some other cement board. Because of problems with moisture, reliability, warranty issues, because of all that, again, the industry is shifting to this wood composite. From a distance, or with the exception of maybe even touching the product, you would not notice the difference between the Hardy and the wood composite. I think based on the comments from the Planning Commission, there was consistency there. They were supportive of that shift. Commissioner Banky had concerns with the use of the vinyl, but the switch from the cement to the wood was supported by the Commission.
I watched that, Mr. Slania, and it gave me pause, simply because I think it was 2005. Councilmember Sherry, were you on the Planning Commission at that point? Mm-hmm. Donnay Properties, Buck Hill, vinyl product. On shakes and lap siding. And you remember who the presenter was?
Oh, yes.
So do I.
But I think this is one of the things that, and I'm not defending him because I have this opinion independent of Mr. Benke and that project and his membership on and position on the Planning Commission, and that is that you talk about these products, and at that time, Hardy Board was the be-all and end-all. Mm-hmm. At one time, Masonite was the be-all and end-all.
Yeah.
I mean, how many lawsuits have we seen over this product? And my resistance to this is not because of the design of the project, because I agree with you, Madam Mayor, it does look very compatible. But what I'm very concerned about is the quality of the materials that are being used in this project. And I dug my heels in over the chimneys because it's lesser quality material than the stone. And I'm very concerned about the vinyl siding. Very concerned, because what happens if he can't find something to match that exactly? Then what's he going to do? I just feel this is a very important part of town. Have great sympathy for the homeowners down there. I'd be crazed over what's happened down there. And I'm crazed just as a citizen of Burnsville is what's happened down there. But I don't want something just kind of mediocre going in there just because it looks good on paper.
One of the things that we can do as a condition is that if he doesn't find that product, that he can come back and ask for an amendment to the material as a condition. That's one option. But I think in comparison, because I was so opposed to the development over on 122nd Ridge, what is it called?
River Valley.
Yeah, it just because I don't like it's River Valley development. I mean, there is no compatibility, and the quality of the product is really not that great. And now they are going to do it the way it was supposed to do it. They were supposed to do. So I hope that you will look at that, Member Sherry, because we can solve this, because I live in the area, and this is so much better than what's standing there right now, which is not.
I agree, the proposal is better. It's just that as things go along, we cut a little here, we cut a little there, oh, this is too expensive, and the next thing we know, we've got a problem on our hands. And I have another concern, and that is, this is getting away from the building materials, and that is, it says, plan for showing the paving area, typical pavement section, drainage pattern, instructions need adjustment. Who will pay for that?
Currently, Madam Mayor, Council, currently the builder of the 4 units,
Will pay
Tier
for that.
2 is covering that cost as part of the completion of the
And a
project.
follow-up question regarding the permit, or the private utilities inspected, and the report provided to the homeowners association and the city. So, okay, there's a report. Who repairs all of that stuff if it's deficient?
Madam Mayor, Council, that would be the responsibility of the homeowners association, unless there's a separate agreement worked out with the builder. The inspection is to simply to put the homeowners association on notice should they need to budget for these expenses in the future. As I understand, the homeowners association has inspected those utilities. They are doing maintenance on that currently. The Planning Commission just wanted another inspection.
Councilmember Sherry, one of the things that after Lentor Properties and the developer came in to our work session, I did confirm with staff that the plan unit development agreement becomes a transfer to the new developer. So those agreements that were signed with Lentor now is transferred to the new developer. So all of those conditions that we approved back then is now going to be owned by Mr. Brown. the new developer.
Correct.
Yes.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Sherry.
this situation is not the only one of its kind. I have a friend and neighbor who moved into a development in St. Paul Lower Town. Same thing happened. It's almost exactly it. The plans are different, that's all. And it was most unfortunate for those who had been early buyers into that development. I mean, it was just awful. Cost them dearly. I don't want this to happen again to these homeowners. And I'm uncomfortable with what I see as cutting corners. And I've itemized the corners that I don't like seeing getting cut. That's all I can say.
Would a condition help you?
What would you propose?
That, well, they're looking at the vinyl shakes for and
Correct.
it'll look like what we see here. Correct?
Madam
Mr.
Mayor,
Slaney?
Council, the whether it be the composite cement or the composite wood siding is a different size than what standard vinyl comes in. So the applicant's pursuing a vinyl
Composite,
on the rear and the internal sides to match as closely as possible to what the reveal of the lap siding will be, the composite lap siding.
So
at least from a width and a reveal and not a texture necessarily, but width and reveal, it would be reflective of, it'd be very similar to the composite.
And then you were saying that they were still working to find the right fit.
Correct.
And if they don't, then you can come back and talk to us. That's the one condition that I'm, Councilmember Sherry, and then I'll go to
So-
Councilmember Nguyen.
So if this material goes up, the vinyl goes up, and it is not a good visual fit, we can say take it down.
Madam Mayor, Council, there is no condition in there. There is no condition proposed at this point. If that were the pleasure of the council, it would be something where the applicant would show that to staff prior to the building permit. We would not let it go as far as getting up
Yeah.
on the building before we saw the material.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Well, I just feel that I like the idea of having the condition because you want to make sure that visually it's going to fit in. I still go back to our work session where we heard from the homeowners and I just feel for them that they have been living with this mess for how many years, and they all were in agreement that they were happy with the proposed plan, the materials, and that some of the adjustments, such as the chimney, would not bother them as homeowners. I just think that this is a special case, I hate to say that, but, you know, to give them some relief and to, I think visually it's going to improve that area to have something there instead of just paving over it and leaving it as is. So.
Councilmember Sherry and then Councilmember Coughlin.
Well, I too want to give them relief. Don't get me wrong for a minute. But I don't want to make a short-term relief decision that is going to have long-term consequences. And that's how I see this neighborhood. We built this for 50 years, not for 10. And that's why I'm going to stick to my guns on this. And a condition would make me happy. I could do that. Because I do want to see something go in there. There's no question in my mind. But I don't want to just let people who are anxious to sell their homes make that decision for us, because I think we have to take a longer view of this.
Councilmember Coughlin.
Well, from my perspective, I think the Planning Commission did a good job. I would support the majority decision, but if it's the council's will, the majority of the council's will to put a condition on, then I can't stand in the way of that, so.
Did you want to speak, Councilmember Keeley? Well, you didn't. Don't. I'm looking and I'm thinking he didn't even hit his button. Councilmember Keeley, do you want to comment?
My turn. Mm-hmm. Would you mind, Madam Mayor? I'd like to call the builder up to answer some questions.
Yes, please.
Mr. Melvin Moore will be up in 1 second.
Yeah. Mr. Moore? Good evening, Mr. Moore. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members.
Councilmember Keeley.
Name and address for the record.
Yes, your name and address for the record, please. I think staff will.
14560 Wiles Parkway, Prior Lake, Minnesota.
Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Your thoughts, Mr. Moore, on the duration of how long vinyl siding will last, and your opinion on your ability to match the lapping as closely as possible to the existing structures?
I'll answer the latter first. Can't answer the question of how close we can get. I've actually taken siding samples over to our lumber company, and we've asked them to get them exact if they possibly can, but they have not given me a final answer to that yet. With regards to how long the vinyl siding will last, I think the vinyl siding will last as long as the LP. I think the duration of both of those materials will last similar time. Exposure to hail or some other types of weather conditions, vinyl will take a little bit more of issues than LP will. On the other hand, LP has to be painted, and so there is an additional cost over time for painting LP that the homeowners or the association will bear. We've heard the council members clearly in the last few meetings, the sessions where we've talked about the various materials. We've done a lot of work. We want the homeowners to be happy with the end product as well. We want the council members to be happy and the city to be happy. We took some time and went back and looked at the cost differences between the two materials. We talked briefly with the homeowners prior to session this evening about what those cost differences might be. We would concede to those changes, in fact, if we were confident that the market would bear pricing in that regards, if the houses would sell in that way. So we're all on the same page. I'm not opposed to this. I want a win-win for everyone. Council members, you have to live with this. The homeowners have to live with it, and it's got to be a good product that we leave for everyone. Not opposed to trying to work through something.
Thank you. The lapping difference, can you give us a visual on how many inches the lapping exists that you're trying to match and how close you think you might get, even if they, as Mr. Slaney pointed out, there's different lapping widths based on the type of material used. Based on what you know before you get a response to your question from your resource, how close do you think they'll end up if you just used stock with lapping in the product that you want to use?
I think we can get very close. However, I'm not pleased with some of the product that I've seen so far that gets close from a lapping profile. So my concern was not just how close I could get to the lapping differences, but what the product was. Was I happy with the quality of that product?
Okay. Just one last question, but I'd like to know, because I think this has been a good process. I think you've presented yourself, your company, and the product very well. When you have existing homeowners that have dealt with an empty slabs of concrete for as many years as they have, hearing that they are in support of the project as it's being proposed, I think makes our decision a little easier. We're looking at it from a broader perspective, from a design standpoint, as Councilmember Sherry has pointed out. Do you have any issues with a condition to come back to the council with the siting, with the ultimate siting choice?
My only issue is that we're spending a lot of time trying to figure out what the market's going to bear on the sale price. If I could tell you today that the market would bear $250,000 or $260,000 for these units, we would say, let's put the LP siding on. Most recent sales there have been 219, 189. There's been sales in there at 230. Our cost basis is now with vinyl siding is about almost $200,000. We're hopeful that these units will support 245 minus some real estate commissions and that sort of thing. So it's an economic choice more so than anything else.
It's a business decision,
Yes.
absolutely. Well, we don't want to impede that business decision. We want to see this project go forward. As always, as I'm sure you've been in front of the councils in the past, there are little nuances about the project that we try and make it, as you put it, which I think is very eloquently put, a win-win for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought that, you had given some good feedback during the work session and have seen some of the materials that were being proposed and in other development and products. So, members of the council, what I'm hearing is a consensus, and Councilmember Sherry is contemplating the suggestion of a sixth condition. Councilmember Sherry.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that, and I recognize this is very much a business decision. I mean, I know what's happened to the market, and I know what those houses sold for originally. So I get it that this is a business decision, but I would like, I don't know whether it needs to be a condition, but I'd like our planners to be able to review this vinyl before it goes on the building. Whether it needs to be done in the form of a condition, maybe Mr. Slaney would have an opinion on that.
Well, I believe, Councilmember Sherry, in adopting the findings of fact, Mr. Jamnick, can we have one finding? Is it in the finding that we put it in to look at the?
Mayor and Council, I believe it would be more appropriate to have it in the recommendations or the terms and conditions of the approval. And similar to what we've experienced with the signage and some of those issues, the major issue is providing enough direction for the delegation to staff. Some idea of parameters of what would be acceptable. As you are right now, it's fairly amorphous of what the staff review would consist of.
Councilmember Sherry.
And I would be fine with leaving that up to staff judgment.
Okay, so if you would like to make a, you would like to make a motion then to adopt the findings of fact and approve the plan unit development agreement as recommended by the Planning Commission with the direction for staff to review that last, the vinyl siding for the chimney.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Sherry makes the motion, second by Councilmember Coughlin. Councilmember Keeley, discussion.
Withdrawn.
Oh, withdrew. Okay.
Not necessary now.
Not necessary?
Councilmember Sherry.
Okay, very good. All right. There's a motion on the table, no discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Good luck. And when will you start? Yeah, the residents are very happy.
We're all happy.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for working through with our process. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes,
I-
Councilmember Sherry.
I'd like to thank staff for work on this project. It was very difficult and touchy and sometimes contentious. And I thank staff for the diligent work. Also, I wanted to thank staff for explaining at the Planning Commission meeting what the city's role was in this, that there was this perception that the city really kind of dropped the ball on this, which was not the case. So thank you, Mr. Slaney, for explaining that. And if anybody's watching and wants to understand that, look at the last planning commission meeting because he does a fine job.
Because people need to understand that the property does not belong to the city. The property belongs to somebody. And they have to come through the process, and they have to build the product according to what was approved at the beginning. And then all of these agreements are transferred. So, very nicely done. The next item is the new 6, and this is to approve the 2015-2016 Parks and Natural Resource Commission's work session. And presenting this evening is Mr. Maruf Rauf. He's the Vice Chair of the Parks and Natural Resource Commission. Mr. Rauf, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council Member. Thank you very much for meeting me here and to discuss the Park and Natural Resource Commission work plan for 2015 and 16. Every year, the PNRC reviews and updates its work plan for upcoming 2-year period. This commission sets the work plan at our January work session, and we approved this on February 2nd meeting, and we are recommending it to you for an approval tonight. Included in your background packages are the proposed list of projects that the commission is recommending we work on over the next 2 years. The first 2 slides highlights our annual activities. These items has become part of our routine work. The next 2 slides highlights our annual activities. These items has also been part of our, the next 2 slides are a list of special projects that we have agreed to work on over the next 2 years. However, most of this work will be done in 2015. I would like to highlight some of the items we have proposed for 2015 and 2016 work plans. Review design for new park entrance signs. Review and update for staff on Emerald Ash Borer. Review the Black Dog Regional Trail conditional use permit application. Review Rose Bluff Trail plan. Review plan for Cliff Fan and Line playground splash pad. Review the proposal to add a sculpture at Nicollet Common Park. Review update on interactive tee box sign at Birmingham Wood Golf Park course. Review plan for skate park phase 2. Review and update on volunteer opportunities and programs in the area of park and natural resources. Review plan for bicentennial garden. Review and update on safety in the park. Of course, if you have any thoughts about other projects that would you like Commission to take an input on, we'll be pleased to do so. I would like at this time to acknowledge the wonderful group of residents that are serving our PNRC. They are truly excited about the work they do for you and the community. I would be happy at this time to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Ralph, please thank your colleagues in the Park and Natural Resource Commission for all of your work and for the recommendations that you bring forth to us. And most of the time, everything that you do goes on the consent agenda. Tonight, we have one that's on the regular agenda because you had a dissenting vote. And so we will be speaking to that. But it sounds like in reviewing the background and the work plan that you have in place, you're going to be very busy. Yeah. And we appreciate the work that you'll be doing and the recommendations that you will be forwarding to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the council, Councilmember Sherry.
I just have a couple of comments. One is I really like seeing the work plans because it's a way for you to announce to the public that you have jobs, you have a list of jobs to do.
Thank you.
And to see the amount of work you do. The second question I have is on number 7 on the interactive tee box signs. Interactive, does that mean when I walk up to them, the distance to the hole gets shorter? If you could fix that, that'd be wonderful. But thank you very much for your work.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Ruff? With that, I'd like a motion to receive and adopt the work plan.
So moved.
Second? Okay. Councilmember Coughlin makes the motion, second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you so much. Please extend our gratitude to your colleagues. The next item is item number 7, and this is to approve a wetland permit and replacement plan for the construction of the Black Dog Regional Trail. Mr. Schultz, our Parks and Natural Resource and Recreations Director, is going to be presenting. Mr. Schultz.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. As you alluded to on the previous item, this item would regularly be on the consent agenda, but we did have one dissenting vote when it was reviewed by the Parks and Natural Resources Commission, so we are putting it on the regular agenda to share with you this evening. Earlier this evening on the consent agenda, council approved a conditional use permit for construction of the Black Dog Regional Trail. One of the conditions of that conditional use permit was that the city acquires the needed wetland permits prior to proceeding with construction. Up on your screens is a map of the project, and I want to point out that there are a number of partners with us on this project. They are Dakota County, Excel, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This is just the western end of the project, so this is obviously where you get off on the ramp by 35W. And this end of the map is just past the power plant. The entire section of trail is 3.5 miles. It continues on easterly past this point to the Cedar Avenue Bridge. That part of the plan isn't up on the screen now because there are no wetland impacts once you get past this point. So this map is intended to show you where the wetland impacts are. I want to point out that all the partners got together and looked at options to minimize the impacts. We looked at 5 different options for completing this project, and all the partners agreed that this was the best option if we wanted to actually go ahead with the project. I will also point out that as soon as you get off of Black Dog Road, you are in a wetland in this area. So anytime you stray from the road, you are going to impact a wetland if you want to put a trail in this part of our community. There are 3.22 acres of permanent impact that couldn't be avoided. They are in these areas as you see it leaving. This is Black Dog Road in through here. And as you see the trail leave, you see that you're in wetland areas and you will have impact. This is the trailhead here where there is some impact. And then all along this area, as you follow the trail, there is some impact to wetlands. There's also 5.67 acres of temporary impact that will be restored after construction. So you have to go a little wider than 10 feet when you're putting in a 10-foot wide trail, but all of those areas will be restored. And there is no need to mitigate for the impacts as long as you restore it to previous conditions, which is certainly our intent. There is a 2-to-1 replacement ratio that's required anytime you impact wetlands. So we do need to mitigate the impacts with 6.44 acres of wetland replacement. The wetland replacement plan proposes that Dakota County will provide 3.22 acres, or half of that, using their wetland bank accounts that they have existing in Dakota County and the Minnesota River Valley. The remainder of the mitigation, the city of Burnsville would purchase mitigation credits from a wetland bank located in the Minnesota River Valley in LeSueur County. The Wetlands Conservation Act priority is to replace wetlands within the major watershed in which the impact occurs. In this case, that's the Minnesota River Valley. The council approved a purchase agreement for those credits contingent upon approval of this plan at your January 20th meeting. The city has followed the process defined in the Wetlands Conservation Act and the city ordinances regarding wetland permits and the related wetland replacement plan, which includes review by a technical evaluation panel, which includes representatives from Dakota County Soil and Water Conservation District, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and the State Board of Water and Soil Resources. The technical evaluation panel was unanimously in support of this plan. The plan was also reviewed by the Planning Commission as part of their conditional use permit review, and it was unanimously supported by the Planning Commission. The Parks Commission reviewed it and recommended approval on a 5-to-1 vote. Since again, the recommendation wasn't unanimous, we do have this on the regular agenda. The commissioner who voted against the approval, in essence, does not support any impacts to wetlands in our communities. She has consistently voted against wetland impacts on, I believe there have been 3 or 4 projects that have come before the commission since this commissioner has been on the PNRC. Staff is recommending approval of the wetlands permit and replacement plan. Madam Mayor and council members, I'm happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Members of the council, any questions? Councilmember Sherry?
Yeah, Mr. Schultz, can you tell me, I see the road going across the, diagonally, down, yep, right there, that's the road, correct?
Correct.
And is that going to come out eventually?
The road will be public to the point that you see there,
Right
just
there.
past the trailhead.
Yeah.
And then it has already been turned over to Excel. It is a
Excel.
private
And then
entrance. There's a
event-
gate at this point.
And eventually, will Excel be building another road? Do you know?
They have just rehabilitated that road. We worked with them to do that. And so they intend to keep that long-term
Okay.
up to their plant. Once you get past the plant, we actually share it's a combination trail and service road. That's why there are no
That's-
impacts once you get east of the plant.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering, if there's a service road that goes up on the other side of Black Dog Lake, isn't that correct?
On the north side of the lake,
And-
really adjacent to the existing road.
On the north side of the lake. I'm talking about the south side of the lake. Isn't there a service road that goes in there when we have flooding?
There is an entrance that comes through Black Dog Park. I don't know if you can see the arrow.
Yeah.
There's a bridge that crosses over between east and west
Okay.
Black Dog Lake.
And wasn't there
Goes into the plant.
wasn't there a discussion at some point of extending that road up to 12th Avenue?
It was discussion.
Yeah.
That was centered around the concept that they would expand their plant, and that project has been put on
On hold.
by
Okay.
the Public Utilities Commission.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? If not, a motion is in order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keeley makes the motion, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Schultz. And I will now recess the Burnsville City Council meeting so the Economic Development Authority meeting can convene. President Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I now open the meeting of the Burnsville Economic Development Authority. We have all commissioners present. Any additions to the agenda? Moving on, we have consent agenda, the approval of minutes from our January 20th organizational meeting and the election of officers. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Coughlin, second by Commissioner Wynn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. On the regular agenda, we have a resolution approving the Fifth Amendment to the contract for private development between the Burnsville Economic Development Authority and Burnsville Crossing LLC. And we are blessed again to have Skip Nienhaus, our Economic Development Coordinator, to present.
Thank you, Mr. President. The applicant, Burnsville Crossing LLC, is seeking a Fifth Amendment to their contract for private redevelopment. The property in question, as you can see, this is our schematic map of the heart of the city. This is the Burnsville Parkway. This is Nicollet. This is the CVS Pharmacy, and the parcel that is undeveloped sits back here. We entered into the contract with Burnsville Crossing LLC in 2007. We've done 4 amendments since then. For the most part, those amendments were due to the fact that, obviously, from 2007 until now, we did go through a period of economic downturn. The majority of those amendments were extensions on commencement and completion dates. However, the Third Amendment did change a few of the substantive pieces of the contract, and that actually resulted in the construction of the CVS. The current request is to extend the completion date to March 1st of 2017. The current completion date is March of this year. When the CVS Pharmacy was built, that constituted the commencement date. So they need to build the 5,000 square foot office or retail building to hit their completion date. What has occurred is because of the nature of the building of 5,000 square feet, you need either one tenant or at least a tenant that will take the majority of that 5,000 square feet before they start construction. We are not yet to the point where we are building those types of buildings as spec buildings, and they are obviously been attempting to find that tenant. The extension of the completion date will result in less TIF being available to the applicant, and the applicant is aware of that. To date, they have received absolutely no TIF from this project. The applicant has, since originally purchasing the property, done a fantastic job of maintaining the property, including when it had the old TCF Bank on it. They continue to do a very good job of maintaining the undeveloped piece of property. The applicant has been in constant communication with staff regarding possible uses in that building, and we have gone through them whenever they have had those questions. Staff would recommend that the EDA approve this amendment. The applicant is here if you have any questions of the applicant, and I also would stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nienhuis. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Couts?
President Healy, you know, we understand the issues with economic vitality, and when you're building office buildings at this time, it is tough to get one tenant. And so, and I'm very appreciative of the work that Mr. Steve Wellington and his staff is doing. Mr. Zhang she manages all of the properties here in Burnsville that is in their portfolio, and it's quite a bit. And she does a wonderful job with all of the properties that they do manage and own here in Burnsville. And I think you have one of the largest portfolios. Some of the, yeah, I see your signs all over the place. So you know, I'm in support of 2017, and I had a brief conversation with Mr. Zhang. If something comes up between now and then, you know, it could be sooner and it could be then.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Couts. It just is odd to say that, by the way. I have to get used to it. Sorry. Well, Commissioners, in our council role, we have handled this type of situation over the past several years, now and again, as a result of the economy slowing down investment. And this particular property has adjacent the intersection an empty office building that is for sale and looking for tenants, a disposition. And so there's situations within the market in Burnsville in this particular distinct area that make it a little bit more complicated. But good luck. I hope that you're able to find a tenant and build a building there. I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Sherry, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Nienhuis. There are no other items on our agenda. I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coughlin, second by Commissioner Wynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we close the meeting. Madam Mayor, I turn it back over to you to open up the Burnsville
Thank
City
you.
Council meeting.
I will now reconvene the Burnsville City Council meeting, and members of the council, there are no other items to come before the body this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Councilmember Keeley makes the motion.
Second.
Councilmember Wynn, in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. Good night, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.